Hi everyone, this is Brianna with Survivors with Rhythm. Today I want to reach out to kind of share a hard-learned lesson that I've had to overcome this past few years. And this largely stems from the people-pleasing habits I took on after all of my traumas and because of my childhood and wounds that it created. I became much of a people pleaser who placed other people's value, their needs, and their desires and dreams over my own. And this, I know, has largely been out of abandonment wounds and feeling abandoned by not only my parents and, relatives, because other relatives I never felt close to either, but I realized I'd been manifesting a lot of relationships, platonic and otherwise, with people throughout the years who would make me feel that wound again purposely so I could feel it and overcome it. And at the same time, it's painful, to have to feel heartbroken and left behind all the time. But I realized throughout these past few years that is largely why I've always felt like the world was so cold, that people were always so cold to me, that I'd never find any happiness in this world, was because I personally, internally felt left out in the cold by people ever since I was a child. And that's how it was manifesting. It was manifesting in my physical world as coldness from other people and just feeling that way in general because, not only did I have to deal with people that I opened up to leaving me behind, but I also had to deal with a lot of people who were taking advantage of me or personally attacking me, whether that would be verbally or physically. And I've learned throughout these past few years how much of a toll that's taken on me and how much my power I was giving away. Like, for example, something I don't like to talk about, there had been a romantic situation that played out starting a few years ago that, honestly, what triggered this healing journey to begin with was I originally started to do all of this healing and facing my traumas head on and all the fears associated with that, even to the point where I confronted one of the perpetrators face to face, which now I would never recommend anybody do. That's not safe or healthy, and it doesn't help you actually find closure in a situation. It just puts you in an unsafe predicament that I would never recommend doing. But I look back at it now and I realized, I was doing all of this because of wanting some sort of outcome or result with a certain person, but in doing so, I was giving away my power to this person, and ultimately, this person did walk away from the situation, and I did feel that abandonment. So that's how it brought up that abandonment wound, but also, I'm grateful for the situation and I'm very forgiving of the situation because I know that I've learned so much from the situation, and, I've continued to do all of the healing since then anyway because I knew I needed it and because I was trying to take my power back. And it's been really hard to function because even though I know that I had to take my power back in the situation, and I know it was better to go our separate ways and it was better for me to be on my own, and I could see all of the wounds, it's more like I've been beating myself up because it's been kind of like I could see it, but my feelings are in a different place and I feel very misaligned. So I've just been pushing myself nonstop during these past few years to do this healing because I kept feeling like I've been in a place of heartbreak and stagnancy for so long that it's just eating me away, and it hasn't gone away. And I realize now, as I'm sitting outside, if you hear water running, it's because there's a fountain right behind me. I realize that I've still been giving my power away in this situation because I realized I was giving my power away because I had actually been waiting around for years trying to create an opening or be receptive of this person finally restoring some sort of balance or justice in the situation for having um, been very manipulative and taking advantage of my people-pleasing ways to get what they wanted. But I realized I'm giving too much of my power away by waiting for someone else to come in and right the wrong that they've done, because I'm doing myself a disservice and doing myself injustices by giving someone else the power to determine whether or not I can move forward in life, if that makes sense. It's very hard to put into words, but I realized that this is why I've been struggling, because so much of this heartbreak and this betrayal had caused me to put walls back up. And when I think of it now and feel how I'm feeling, it feels exactly like how I felt for years because of the trauma before this situation. I felt so left out in the cold, and like the world was cold. And so I had so many walls up to try to keep people out, because I was constantly dealing with people who would harass me, largely a lot of people who were attracted to me, and it made me really uncomfortable. And no matter how many times I communicated that I wasn't interested, they still kept harassing me, and I had to deal with a lot of people like that, where it was just like a personal attack. Either they would feel triggered and they would take it out on me, or there would be some sort of wounds and they would project it onto me. And so there was just a lot of me feeling cold because I kept manifesting people like this. And I really had a lot of walls up and disconnected emotionally from my emotional body in order to function. And when this situation came along, I took that risk and I opened myself up, and that's why I felt so wounded and so betrayed. And it makes me think of both the Three of Swords and the Ten of Swords and tarots, because I've had walls up for so long and I was willing to take them down, and then I felt very hurt by the situation. And lately, just because waiting around for someone else to stand in their power and take responsibility for their actions has forced me to keep walls up again. Not only because I felt like, I guess I kind of was stuck in a victim mentality is the way to put it, where I understand that I should forgive myself in this situation, because I know that I gave myself away when I shouldn't have. I knew I was getting nothing from the situation while I was in it, but I still kept giving my energy away, like I was expecting some sort of result or something. But I was giving my power away as well as my energy, no matter how drained I was. And now even though I've seen this for a long time, I haven't been able to free myself from it, because I haven't been able to forgive myself for giving my power away, and for continuing to put energy into something I knew wasn't working out. And I don't feel that it's necessarily that I need to forgive other people in this situation, but more forgiving myself. Like, for example, when I was dealing with the traumas and overcoming those, a lot of what of how I moved past those and released them entirely was realizing that I had a lot of negative behaviors and things that I was doing that was leading up to those situations. Like, for example, I had that abandonment wound, so I was dealing a lot with loneliness, and I was keeping these people in my life largely because I didn't want to feel alone in the world. And I also had this mentality where I never wanted to cut people off completely, because I guess I was also dealing with a rejection wound on top of that. And then I was refusing to reject other people. And there was just so many issues where I had all of these negative behaviors that were leading up and creating opportunities for other people to take advantage of me in the worst way possible. And so when I learned this, I've done all the work to overcome those behaviors, and in doing so, I made myself confident that I would not experience these things again, or that if, heaven forbid, I did experience sexual abuse again, or something along those lines, I knew that I would be able to handle this and navigate the situation. Like, I knew what I could do. I know the legal aspect, I know the court aspect, I know the reporting aspect, And I know how to handle my own emotions in a situation and to take care of myself and tend to my own needs. So I've no longer felt any attachment to those traumas for a long time, for a couple years, but for some reason, I've still felt attached to this person in this romantic situation. And I've been trying to move past it for a long time, and I've been working on myself nonstop through exhaustion to try to overcome this, and I could not figure out why on earth I could not move past it. And I wonder now, I'm like, okay, so I've learned my lesson, and I keep manifesting people that keep disrespecting my boundaries, and every time I've done what I've needed to do. I've done those behaviors I'm confident in that will prevent abuse or harassment. And those situations are over because I stood my ground and I asserted those boundaries. Like, for example, I met someone virtually through a game that I play like a month ago. And in that time, this person was saying they were romantically interested in me from the beginning, which is kind of creepy. You don't even know me and you've never met me. But anyway, and I told him I wasn't interested from the beginning, that, you know, I'd be willing to be friends, but that's it. And he just kept pushing past that boundary. Like, he kept calling me pet names, and he kept saying how much he loved me and how gorgeous I was and all these kind of things. And after like 2 days, I was like, hey, look, I'm sorry, but you know what, I'm busy. I'm not going to respond to messages right away if I'm doing something, because he was one of those people who just threw a fit when I didn't respond to his messages immediately. And I was like, hey, I was busy. I was doing something. I couldn't respond right away. And it kind of blew up. And he took me asserting my boundary as a personal attack. And so then I had to step up and be like, hey, I'm sorry. It's clear you cannot respect my boundaries and that you're taking it as a personal attack. So I think it's best if we move forward, no longer contacting each other, like no longer being a part of each other's lives. And I had to block him. And you know, this is my point, is that I have that confidence that in any situation where I am not being respected or I am not being fully in my power, that I assert those boundaries, and even if they're not respected, I'm willing to enact that punishment. And for me, it's cutting people off entirely, because I've dealt with enough problems in my life and enough bad people and bad experiences where I don't want to have to experience that again. And I can see where in my power I can make those choices to prevent those from happening again. So ultimately, back to my point, I have confidence in myself that I can discern these types of people, and I can protect myself and do what's right for myself in those situations. But for some reason, there's still that attachment to this person, and I've been having trouble figuring out why. And I've realized now that I'm still kind of, like, there's a part of me that was hoping that this person would take responsibility for their actions and restore justice themselves in the situation. But it seems that's not going to be the case. And I feel like that's kind of what I've been waiting around for. And I thought, you know, maybe I should just say something. But then I realized that I already had. Like, I think like 6 or 7, no, it's probably nearly a year ago, I said how I felt in this situation. And nothing ever came about from me saying so. And so the error this whole entire time has been me waiting around for someone else to restore justice and giving my power away where I shouldn't. And it's been more painful, I guess, now to take even more injustice on myself, because I have to take on the blame in this situation in order to move past it. So it is really hard, and it's something that has been eating me alive and draining even more energy. But I feel it's important to talk about this because I know so many other people are probably experiencing the same thing, like suffering heartbreak or suffering feelings of betrayal or abandonment in situations and not knowing how to get past it. So basically, my advice in this situation is to trust in yourself and know that you deserve better in a situation, and to know when you are giving your power away to someone else and when you are standing your ground. Because it's not worth feeling stabbed in the back or feeling so much heartbreak because someone else isn't taking responsibility in their own life. You need to be the leader of your own life. You need to be the main character of your own story. And to do this, it will ask of you to do things you are uncomfortable with, or things that may hurt you in the beginning, but with time you'll feel happier that you did it. Like, for example, I had mentioned previously in a previous video, I had to cut out every single one of my relatives, and nearly all of the friends that I had in my company all had to be cut out because I realized that there was no equal give and take in those situations. Some of them were attacking me personally out of their own wounds or their own stress and things like that, and other people just weren't giving anything in the situation and just kept taking my energy. But I cut these people out, and over time I realized it's not enough just to walk away. You actually need to say you're walking away and tell them why. That way there's growth in the situation and that opportunity for them and for yourself, because you need to make that cutting more finite. And I thought this whole time I didn't do that, but like I just realized earlier, I was like, wait, I did this like 8 months ago. Why am I still thinking I haven't done this? But that's what made me realize. I was like, wait, I already did this. I already did everything that I possibly could to try to restore justice and leave that opportunity in the situation, and it didn't work out. And I realized I've been hurting myself. I've been keeping myself in heartbreak. I've been keeping myself stabbed in the back because I was giving my power away. And this is something that I want you to understand, is that no matter how much it hurts in the moment, if it brings you greater peace and restores your power to do it or to cut someone out regardless of a situation, just do it. You're not alone. There are other people out there who have had to do the same thing, and you will never move forward in your life if you keep people on different pages within your life. So again, I hope for you the best. You're not alone. You're not the only one suffering. If you ever have any need for advice or support, you can always reach me on Facebook, Instagram, here on YouTube, or anything like that. Again, my name is Brianna with Survivors with Rhythm. I love you all. Thank you.